Connor, ready?
Me, sir. Alright, yeah, I'm good.
Alright. All three judges ready? Connor, ready? Cool. Historically, miners carried the canary while working. The bird's respiratory system was sensitive to the toxins in unsafe mines. If the canary died, the miners needed to get out before it was too late. Without the canary, the miners would die silently and unexpected. I am a miner's canary. My distress is a warning signal for disease in the community which threaten us all. My standard is constructive moral engagement with the oppressed. Self-acceptance is a duty to empathize is the only way to motivate ethical conduct. Exists the basis for starting to care about how others affect our actions. Gwinier and Gerald Torres explain the methodology. The miner's canary metaphor helps us understand why and how race continues to be salient, racialized communities, signal problems within the ways we have structured power, privilege, political race, competence, the view that this race still matters because racialized communities provide the early warning signs of poison in the social atmosphere. It encourages us to do something different from what has been done in the past to understand. We need to change the air in the minds. If you care to look, you can see the canary alerting us at both danger and promise. Project Political Race challenges both those on the right who say race is not as real as those on the left who say race is real, but we cannot talk about it. Thus, I advocate a political race agenda which encourages people to identify with those who are racist to oppressive circumstances and other types of marginalization such as gender. Tim Wise gives additional warrants with the standard methodology. Until the voice of economic, racial, and marginalized person are given equal weight in debate around the ideas that shape our world will continue to be those of the elite. No matter how destructive the ideas have been proven to be, the vast majority of the planet's inhabitants until ignored voice have a chance to be heard and they're on to the end of your styles. Little will change. Debate means an infusion of persons who, because of their life experience, know full well that the system is anything but fair. White, upper middle class, and fools debate need to hear them. They will never gain understanding listening over and over to the voices like themselves. But debate will never change unless gatekeepers are prepared to step up and demand not just with words, but judging criteria and even bias. Folks of color and working class folks won't join the activity if their wisdom isn't being taken seriously. Continuing to ignore the voice of marginalized carries great risk for us because I see such persons who so often view the world differently and far more accurately than the privileged. Contention one is my race-based experience in a hyper-marginalized person in LD. The LD community has tolerated excuse and psychological violence against me. I am a miner's canary. I represent the black and brown bodies which the debate community consistently spits on. My experience is a warning signal for actions with church people committed to the bullying and terrorizing marginalized person will do anything to make a TOC a hostile and unsafe environment for me. First, at Yale, someone left a threatening note challenging my right to compete because, quote, affirmative action sucks, end quote. Second, we've been physically threatened with racial slurs. TOC coach and Judge Christian Charleston, quote, states, it is imperative that even the most and cease not tar everyone on the committee or even all supported Jalon's application with the same brush. Third, a black judge on top of 2-1 decision to drop me in Newark told me that the coach's decision was not driven by his arguments around, but instead the fear of being perceived as racially preferring me. This proves that the national search is so hostile that some black judges are afraid to vote based on who they feel did the better debating. A world where this happens is not one where it's safe for me to go into the cafeteria and talk to people who are committed to deny and excuse their racism. Self-identified white woman Peggy McIntosh explains why people in this activity may be doing racial denial and unwilling to constructively discuss the normal means. Science and denial surrounding privilege are key political way of protecting our advantage, confirm dominance by making these taboo subjects. Most talk about whites and equal opportunity seems to be about opportunity to try and get into a position of dominance while denying system of dominance that exists. Oblivious about white advantage, like oblivious about male advantage, showing the enculturating the U.S. is the main scene, the myth of meritocracy. Most people unaware of the freedom of confidence that their action is there for just a small number of people. Props up those in power. Keeps power in the hands of the same group that most have it already. Coach and Judge Christian Charging is a proof of McIntosh's argument on the DVD board. The stiff seeing is a human being who doesn't deserve to be treated with an anonymous note. He has done nothing but deny the threatening note happened and then made jokes about racism after the fact. He is a role model of the kind of person I cannot feel safe discussing issues of racism with in a constructive way in the cafeteria. Fourth, an anonymous email or threatened the TOC committee April 3rd, 2011. It's time you take responsibility for your actions. Be more transparent or risk a gigantic divide in the community. You know this is bullshit. Fix it. Fifth, people at this tournament have enjoyed my suffering because they enjoy the intellectual contributions or human experience of people of color I've advocated for all years. To quote one VD post by a TOC law at large advocate. Maybe if you debated the topic as opposed to running absurd racism arguments, you would have obtained over 1 bid in 2 years. Six, I have a right to be afraid an honest person violate federal law and think Reach World they published by a large application recommendation, the confidential education record without explicit permission is still being illegally spread on online discussion boards in an attempt to discredit my account. For those who leak my at-large letter edited to remove information that just by my at-large research is listed fully qualified people I beat or won ballots for. Seventh, former judge Hill debater Honda Wings running online potential against my participation at this tournament allowed 34 people to sign announce me, including potential judges and coaches at TOC. This act gives me 100% justification to run this case. If I'm prevented from knowing who I can conflict because of bias and I can't pretend that equitable top of the wave would be an equal playing field to drop me for not being topical for rising incentives to these illicit actions designed to undermine the credibility of being people will judge me. Contention two is that constructive moral engagement requires violence. First, I've been systematically attacked and scaring me away from being here. These acts have made the TOC a dangerous place criterion requires that you vote for me because choosing to look away from this is actually saying that minority people aren't worth defending. Second, the TOC committee refused to defend me against violent threats and harassment online for political reasons. When bystanders do nothing, they treat the victims as subhuman. Sacrifice with no words to justify this debate. It makes no sense to assert that we are debating about ethics, but then sacrifice that system at home. Third, debaters on national circuit use these laws like it's a justification to defend their behavior against me and subsequently harass people in the future. This answers why the Rams violence high stakes and why now is the only time to act. Fourth, your vote for Bodine is required as the first step to stop the cycle of abuse. Colorado argues. Cycle of violence can be interrupted in circles of caring can now grow bigger and stronger even when one person has the moral strength to stand up and speak out. When the whole community is willing to pay, say no to tyrannies of bullies, cycle and violence can be broken. If judges don't use their violence to speak out, then only students in the activity will betray their moral competence too. Fifth, my political action challenge the TOC committee to consider accentuating circumstances of power people who someday face their own forms of oppression. Read 2011. The letter sent to support the exception also explicitly asked for the consideration of any debater if they can prove extension circumstances based on the observation that many tournaments during the year seen they have issues that potentially affected outcomes for certain competitors. The tournament director made clear that he could request an exception to the at-large rules, which would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. This would be made clear in the invitation by future years, including the section which makes it clear with any request or exception. Without my resistance to future years of debaters may, if forever assume they had no chance of applying for an at-large regardless of their conditions. In contrast, those bothered to attack my culture are too blind by the righteous indignation and hate. They don't see what they have given recourse to people suffering from any virus. 6, wins and losses with people value the TOC and makes this decision a unique space to confront marginalization of all types. Being silent or too afraid to access that cruel behavior is tolerable. Thus, in conclusion, I am a minor scenario, and ballot for Bodine JA is one step in the right direction. For those reasons I affirm, I now stand for cross-examination.
What is a miner's canary?
The miner's canary is a metaphor we use within political race to identify how race functions within the policy.
Why is it specific to race?
That argument specifically is telling you about how it's showing you and identifying these problems. You have to understand,
so the
political race is a term of art used to describe an atmosphere in which different apparatuses function.
Is the argument that demonization is uniquely bad in the same way that you've been demonized by the debate community?
Demonization?
Right.
My argument
You talk about how you were demonized by the debate community and people did not see your accomplishments. Is that the argument about why you have become the miner's canary?
That's not simply the argument. The argument specifically is that we have to engage in a metaphor and a methodology that allows us to approach political race and allows us to use individual experiences
so what precisely
to
is
share.
the miner's canary?
Do you want me to finish?
No, there's another question. How do we know when one person is a miner's canary and another person is not?
Right. My argument specifically tells you this because within the apparatus of the miner's canary, we know when an individual is in a toxic area in which they can foresee problems that are dangerous or positive to the other community. These individuals are minorities and individuals that have been demonized by these areas.
Right, that's fine. My question is, next, what is the ballot story for the case? Why do the judges have to use their ballot? And do you have to win the criteria in order to access the ballot?
That's the whole AC.
Okay.
You want me to go down it step by step?
Well,
each argument has
a number of the arguments were just reasons as to why you were alienated in the debate community.
No, all of the arguments are an implication to the ballot.
Okay, how does the fact that someone put a note on your bag at Yale appeal to the ballot?
Right? Because that argument specifically states that voting and endorsing my advocacy allows you to make a normative endorsement against this change.
Okay, why? Do you have to win the
tolerated.
criteria in order to win access to these arguments?
No.
Why not?
That's explained through the Grenier evidence, the Tim Wise evidence, the arguments at the bottom of the AC, the justification for the ballot.
What are all these reasons as to why getting rid of minors' canaries are good? Where do you actually justify that moving away from the suppressive apparatus is a normatively good thing, or why judges have an obligation to do it?
Or why they say normatively good thing?
Yes.
That's being explained through the justifications for the ballot, my social experience, and the fact that I'm debating here. I'm telling you I'm tired of the suppression.
Well,
and
I understand that a number of the arguments...
stance against that.
Okay,
are you arguing oppression good?
Well, I'm not going to run that argument, don't worry. My question,
I'm not worried about the argument. I'm explaining to you the implications of the arguments coming out of the
I thought that the section 2 was the ballot story. Because didn't you label it as the ballot story?
My argument specifically is to not get caught up on the tags. Every argument within the AC has implications to the ballot.
Okay, so all the arguments about your silencing, are those unique
What do you
appeals to
mean
the ballot?
all the arguments about my silence?
All the arguments in the first section, before the section 2, those arguments about
Are you talking about the arguments within the framework?
The one thing where you demonize Christian Tarzany, those kinds of arguments. My question is, are these individual arguments independent accesses to the ballot, or are these all reasons why you have been harmed and we should move away from it?
They serve dual function, right? Those arguments specifically there give you reasons as to not only how I've been demonized and the implications of them, but also as to why you need to endorse my advocacy.
Okay. Before we begin, can you just hand me the second section of the case, like the number 2 section and the number 1 section, before I begin prep?